Hey there, and welcome to this week's Member Spotlight. I'm Susie Daphnis. I'm the CEO at HerBusiness, and I am so excited to introduce you to one of our HerBusiness Network members. Every Monday, well, not every Monday, most Mondays, I get the opportunity to interview one of our incredible HerBusiness Network members and take you behind the scenes of their growing business. They're women business owners. They're starting, scaling, growing a business. They're putting in place systems. They're trying out new marketing. They're bringing on team members. They're building their own little empires. And they're doing that quite often starting from scratch with not a whole lot of resources, but a wonderful set of skills and expertise, perhaps that they've gotten through their corporate careers. But now they're very much looking to go past 6-7 figures, growing and scaling a business with systems and plans and teams and all those good things. And what we bring to these interviews is a little behind the scenes. It's always great to learn from what other women are doing, but also they bring their skills and expertise. And you are in luck today because the topic today and the expertise that you're going to be that's going to be shared with you is all around writing and copywriting, which is such an essential skill and service to have as part of your mix. Now, if you've just joined us, know that you can ask questions along the way. And if we can, we will definitely answer those. Or if you're just here and you just come across us and you're checking in, then be sure to just go ahead and say hi as well. It's good to know who's here. The HerBusiness Network is a community of like-minded business owners. We're located in Sydney as far as our head office, but we help women in regional, rural, country areas all over the country and increasingly the world. And what I found in over 25 years of doing this is that having the support structures around you, having a community of like-minded women is a very, very powerful way to put yourself ahead when it comes to growing and scaling your business. So what I'm hoping to do today is not only share with you the value of being and learning from, being around and learning from other women business owners. And I hope that you have your own network of people available to you, whether you're a member of our organization or not, but a network of people who ask more of you than you do. That for me has certainly been the backbone of my growth over the many, many years that I've been in business. So let me tell you a little bit about my guest before I bring her on. Her name is Rananda Rich. Her business is The Ink Rat, and she's been full-time in this business for the last 18 months. She is a member of the HerBusiness Network, as I mentioned, and she helps small business owners who don't have the time to write. Right? And there's a whole lot of things we need to write in business, whether it's emails or website copy or social media posts, but who understand the value of trustworthy website content specifically and useful information products for building a social online presence. So we know we need that, but we don't have the writing skills. So that's who she works with. And she uses tailored research and copywriting to give business owners their time back so that we can focus on our core business, assuring that we still have all the great content out there, adding value to our audiences. Let's bring Rananda on the line. Hello, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing really, really well. We were talking just before we got online about the fact that you started in business full-time 18 months ago, and now you've developed this essential service, I would say, for small business owners. Tell us a little bit about your expertise and how you came to having this business.
Well, so I guess my kind of key areas of expertise that I bring to the business are copywriting, editing, and ghostwriting. And I bring all of those together because I think in combination they work exceptionally well. But actually, I've had a 25-year corporate career before now. So I bring that as well, those real world examples of persuading and communicating and trying to push big strategic projects through to completion, and bringing that experience and knowledge and then combining it with a more formal training of copywriting and editing. I think I'm able to offer something which is quite real world to small business owners in particular.
And of course, we are a community of small business owners, so I know that there's a lot of work available for you inside of our community. And showing up today, having people get to know who you are is half the battle when it comes to finding new clients, is having people know what your services are and what your expertise is. And I know, and I don't know if you saw it, but someone was looking for a ghostwriter last week or the week before in the group. And I'm not sure if you were tagged, but you might want to definitely look out for that because they were specifically looking for a ghostwriter. So that is good to know. Now, we mentioned your ideal client is a small business owner, but inside of Her Business, we're all about getting very specific about what do we mean by a small business owner? Like, what is really going on for them? So what is typically happening in the lives of your ideal client when they come looking for a service like yours? Tell us about them.
So my ideal client is actually the small business owner or an executive within a company. And those companies are typically focused on self-development, technology, or wellness, because that's the industry that I come from myself. So I've got a pharmacology degree from university. So I've got this kind of scientific background, which I've used throughout my career, despite the fact that I've been both a kind of generalist manager and a specialist kind of finance person. And what happens is we often get stuck in the jargon, especially when we're the expert in our area of business. And what this is about is allowing people with those technology and wellness backgrounds, bring them to people in the right way that is compliant with regulations, especially when it comes to health, and just demystifies it for their customers, because we can get a bit stuck in our own heads. The benefit of using a copywriter is we can help translate those while allowing the business owner or the executive to stay in their heads where their area of expertise is and focus on the knitting of what they need to be working on.
It's a very interesting background, but I do like that you have your areas of specialty. And so, you know, if I'm in wellness or I'm in technology or I'm in finance, then you're going to stand out above and beyond the other copywriter who's just saying, I do copy for everyone about anything. So that's a really, really great point. And the problem that they're typically trying to solve when they come to you, is it that their website traffic is not converting, or what's going on in their business that you help them solve?
That's a good question. And I think the best way to look at things like websites, information products, email list building and things like that is that it's a series of steps. It's not something that you have nothing of one day and then you have a perfect thing of it the next day when you hire someone. So typically people come to me and they've done their website, but they're ready for a revamp. And that's great, because what you've actually got is a bit of a straw man to work with. So you can look at what they have and you can very quickly identify some of the areas and opportunities which are difficult to see when it's your own website, because you get used to what you see and you get used to what you've read and probably sweated hours over preparing, either with someone different in the past or you've often done it yourself, especially if you're bootstrapping yourself up from the ground. And so what I've done a lot of work on, especially in the last 6 months, is I've helped clients revamp their websites, and that's been really, really specific about what their impact statement is and who their customer is. So we're targeting the right people, but then expanding that particularly into LinkedIn, because there's a really underutilized tool in LinkedIn, which is the business page. And often people talk about their business, especially if they're a solopreneur, on their profile page, not realizing there's a free business page that you can put on and mirror a lot of what's on your website. And the thing about that is really interesting about that is there's a word limit in LinkedIn. So it's how do we optimize that word limit? And so that's the kind of area I've been focusing on a lot. How do you get the kind of keywords in your impact statement, your key message in a really impactful way, both on your website and then translating that across, whether it's to your social media or your LinkedIn or other mediums you appear in.
That's interesting. I don't use LinkedIn a whole lot personally. It's one of those things that it's there. And I never realized the value of the business page in that way. Yes, like for instance, we've got it there, but I don't pay it any attention, and it wasn't very strategically put together. And is the business page an important asset because of the search engine capabilities of LinkedIn, or tell us why that is as important as your personal profile, or if not more important as business owners?
Especially as a solo or small business owner, when you put your profile up, you have which company you work for, and there is a tendency when people are looking at your profile to then go, I've never heard of the ink wrap, or I've never heard of,
right, I'm going to click on
and
that.
so
and go
I'm going to click on that, and then it might go actually to nothing, or it has that little blank icon. The other benefit, there's a little bit of a back end benefit, is you can actually put in keywords on your business page that enable you to either be notified or be found for those types of keywords. So if
Very,
you're,
very good.
yeah, there's quite a few little things, and it's actually just worthwhile going in and having a play and having a compare. But I feel, especially when I look at small owners' profiles, because that's really interesting to do, so they don't often optimize or utilize what is a free resource, and often doesn't take very long to set up.
Very, very good. So if you've got any questions about that, let us know. As I mentioned earlier, one of the things I love about bringing our members as guests to these Monday member spotlights is that they come with some tips and strategies. And so in a moment, Rananda is going to talk to us about that. But let's talk about your business very quickly. You've been growing the business for 18 months. I know that you are part of our goals groups, which is our accountability group. So you've set up structure there. You're getting the ongoing support and mentoring that being part of the network is about. But tell us, what are some of the things that might be keeping you up at night, or that might be just niggly little frustrations and challenges? Because if I can help in any way, I want to do that.
Yeah. So look, I'm new to the HerBusiness network, and already I find that it's paying huge dividends in terms of being able to access a whole bunch of resources that, to be honest, I think we take them for granted when we're working in our corporate lives. And I think many businesswomen have come from strong corporate careers, and you do get used to having finance down the corridor, and you get used to having sales and marketing upstairs. You're used to having an HR resource. And when we become solopreneurs and micropreneurs, we internalize functions that are done by different people in bigger organizations. And when we internalize all of these, it can become really quite overwhelming. And so what I have found is that there is a whole bunch of resources that are helping me just restructure effectively those departments into my own mind. The challenge I have, though, at the moment is that I don't spend enough time on that. I don't spend enough time actually working on my business. So I will always defer some marketing activity because I feel that the revenue generating deadline is much more important. And that's a mindset thing, I suspect, more than anything, and a self-value thing, in that the worth I get is from what I can invoice or delivering something to a client on time, when actually there's a long-term growth aspect to my business that I don't focus on enough. Yes.
I want to speak to that because I had a very similar question just a couple of weeks ago. Another woman who was similarly, she said, if I can't invoice it, I'm not giving it the time and attention. And the problem when we do that is that those other important but not urgent things never get the time and attention. But I know this weekend I wanted to do a couple of hours work on a project that I have coming up at the end of May, but I chose instead to do task-oriented things I could check off my list that didn't require me to go into deeper thinking. And so the thing I think we have to do is figure out, how do we do that, even if it's a little bit? And that's one of the reasons inside of HerBusiness, every single month we focus on a different area of business as a whole community, because even if you make a tiny bit of progress, like this month we're working on money. And so whether it's doing your back of the napkin budget, or whether it's restructuring your pricing or raising your prices, or whether it's just looking at your products and services and saying, you know what, it's time, I'm spending way too many hours to deliver that, I really should pare back what I'm offering. All those little incremental changes are going to give you an overall boost in your business, because we can't focus on all the things all the time, right? We just can't. We don't have the capacity. We're small business owners, we're micro business owners, or we're solopreneurs. But being able to have someone put your attention on an area of your business that perhaps you don't think about all the time is going to help you anyway. So just know that you are making some progress. But I also encourage you to, because it's a little bit of a self-sabotaging habit as well. And I say it because I know it as well, because it's different or difficult sometimes to confront the areas of business that are not natural to us, that we are having to wear those hats because we're no longer in the corporate role as just us. And so now we're juggling the finances and the marketing and the technology and the people and the whatever. It comes back to what we call inside of HerBusiness, the you growth zone. And that is your mindset, your confidence, your own personal development. Because anytime we're averting our attention from something that we know is important and we know could really help us down the line, and we're putting that attention on something short term, we are sabotaging ourselves a little bit. And we want to sort of weigh up that, okay, if I do the client work, I get the money in the bank, versus if I do this work, the payday isn't this week or this month. The payday might be in a year from now when I have this other incredible wealth building aspect of my marketing, this automation or this new product or service, or when I have the systems in place so that I don't have to, it means I can leverage, I can give something to another team member, or I can bring on a team member. And so just noticing what triggers the aversion, I think, is going to be part of it, because you can do that. I mean, you can do that forever, but it likely won't move you closer towards your goals. And so the other thing I recommend is having a really clear vision for what you want your business to look like in 12 months, in 6 months, in 3 months. And then really having that vision be so compelling for you, Rananda, that you do make time to do it because it's so compelling. But if all we see in front of us is the tasks that we need to do, the jobs we need to finish, the clients we need to satisfy, but we don't have something in there that really makes our heart sing, it's so much easier to just do the here and now than to put the work into the longer term.
I think that's why the goals groups are so important, because there is a 12-month component, there's a 3-month component, and then there's a kind of month and week by week component, and it breaks down it can help articulate what can seem like a dream, but it can break it down into the manageable steps. But more than that is that the reason I deliver a piece of client work is because they're waiting for it and they're expecting to see it. And I think the goals groups work in a similar way, in that they're expecting you to make progress. And if you're not, you're letting down the team. And that's the challenge as a solopreneur. We're not part of these big teams where you let someone else down anymore. So we defer to our external team members. The goals groups in here and that kind of overall framework that you provide helps us raise to the standard that we should be at, but that we don't let ourselves be. And I think that's what's so valuable.
It is. You're right. One of my mentors said to me, you always want to surround yourself with people who ask more of you than you do. And that is why we have the goals group structure, because you might not show up for yourself or get that thing done for yourself, but likely you're not going to show up to that meeting again and again, not having done that thing that you say is so important to you, because you've got 4 or 5 other people who are holding you accountable with lots of love and compassion, but they're still saying, so how are we doing on that thing? How are we going on making progress? So I think you've got it exactly right. That's kind of the purpose. And so it's kind of hacking our own behavior to give ourselves structures, to be part of a goals group or an accountability group, something I've done in all my years of business, to be part of a mastermind, or to be part of a network where there are activities that are designed to help you show up. Like right now, this month, our accountability challenge across the whole network is to do your back of the napkin budget. Whether you're numerate or not, whether you hate numbers or not, but to just do it, because it's going to move you that much closer to better understanding your finances or what they're going to look like over the next 12 months if you do this. And so every week we've got accountability posts in the group saying, how are you doing? And just this morning, after I finish up from here, actually, I'm going to go live into our members group to talk about that and see how people are doing and offer the support, because sometimes we don't do things because we don't know what all the steps are. So it's a little bit of that as well. Now, I know you've come here with some great advice that you find yourself giving to your clients when they get stuck around their copy or their websites or the work that you are an expert at. And I'd love for you to share some of that advice with the women who are here watching.
Great. Okay, so 3 pieces of advice particular to writing. The first thing I would suggest is know your customers. Now, I know that everyone says this all the time, and I certainly hear it all the time throughout the HerBusiness group. So I just can't reinforce enough how important it is to be specific about who they are and the problems that they are experiencing, because it really, really helps upgrade and step up the website, the blog content, the offers that you make. I have seen websites and I have worked with clients who aren't sure who their customer is and aren't sure of the problem they're trying to solve, which sounds both ridiculous, but actually it's really, really easy, because we actually want to help a lot of people and we become quite unfocused, and that comes through in the content. So don't be afraid to be specific, because you will have a halo effect around that, and you'll actually draw other people in because they'll like your specificity. They'll understand understand from the specificity of what you're saying whether you are right for them or not, even if it doesn't feel like you're talking directly exactly to them. So if you might be talking to female entrepreneurs, but male entrepreneurs will resonate with that and still be drawn in because they know the detail of what you're saying.
I love that idea of the halo effect. I haven't heard it put that way before. I sometimes talk about, we think of a dartboard, and anywhere that you hit the dart, you get some sort of point, but really, where's the bullseye? That's what you're trying to get to. Yeah. But I really like this idea of the halo effect, because I do have women say that it's like, well, I do this for women, but I don't want to exclude the men. It's like, well, you're excluding everybody if you don't have that specificity that you mentioned. So I love that. So that's knowing your customers and being very, very clear about who the ideal customer is. Great. Thanks, Rananda.
And so the other thing is, I think, is don't be afraid to write, and don't be afraid to be yourself in your writing. Typically, we write something and we hate what we write. We look at it and it feels awkward and clunky. But actually, writing a first draft and being free about what you write is part of the writing process, and you should really, really embrace it and just let it flow out of you. I've discovered a lot of people who thought they couldn't write, they didn't dare write, and actually when they do, they have beautiful and unique voices. And I would really say to everyone, don't underestimate the power of putting your voice on paper. And you don't actually physically have to write on a blank page. You can record into tools like Otter, record into Zoom tools, and Microsoft will automatically transcribe that for you. So there's all sorts of ways. You don't have to physically sit there with a keyboard or a notepad, but it's about capturing your voice on paper. There is a second stage, which is about being grammatical and removing spelling errors, because you just don't want your readers to be tripped up as they're reading your beautiful messages.
Yes, two different things though, right? We don't want to get stuck on making sure the words are perfect and the commas are in the right places on that first draft, like you mentioned. Yeah,
so ideally actually is ideate what you want to write. Just sit down and brainstorm ideas on a different day or at a different time. Just write for your life. And then on a separate day to that, look back at what you've written and edit it and put it through a spell checker and a grammar program of some sort. Do them on different days. It helps break it out in terms of being intimidated about what you're actually doing.
And what that brings to mind is that if you are going to allow it to percolate and sit, and then you're going to revisit it, that means planning a little more around your writing. So if you do have a weekly newsletter for which you write the editorial, it may not be on the deadline day turning up and go, okay, I need to pump this out and it's going to be great. It's just allowing yourself that grace and that time to do that. All right, you've got one more strategy that you want to share with us.
So when writing, you want to keep the reader reading. So again, this is a fairly well-known kind of piece of advice, but every word that you put down is designed and you should bear in mind that you're encouraging the reader to read further. So I think the common statistic is that you should spend 80% of your time on your headline, because unless people are interested in your headline, they're not going to read anything else. So there's no point writing 1,500 amazing, inspirational or useful or technically correct words if the headline doesn't grab them, because they're just going to skip past. And there are, again, some really, really useful tools out there where they come with no cost. The one I use a lot is CoSchedule Headline Analyzer. And you put them in there, it'll give you a score in terms of what is appealing about that headline. And I find it incredibly useful, because I'm now able to use and create headlines without using that tool, because I'm getting better and better practice. So it helps actually refine our task. So you don't have to use it all the time, but it does make you very aware about what kind of words bring in your readers. And you can also tell it from your Google Analytics and which blogs are working better, which pages are visited more often. Same on social media, you can see which ones resonate by the nature of the word. So it's worthwhile just sitting down and having a look at that. The other thing I would say, just on the same thing, is that your opening paragraph must also then be gripping. And then your second paragraph must be really, really useful, not just for the people that are reading, but also for the search engines that might be looking, especially if you are providing answers to people's questions, because the opening paragraph will often give a search engine a clue as to the topic you're talking about. And if you put the answer into the second paragraph, you become highly searchable. So there are, again, lots and lots of tools out there and plugins that you can put on your Chrome bar or whichever Explorer thing that you use. I'm using all these weird brand names, but you know what I mean. You like whichever internet browser you use. And what you're doing there is you're providing value by raising your information to the top of the searches, and also answering the questions that people most want to use are most asking. So there's all sorts.
Oh
And so
my
what
goodness, that is gold. That is gold, because we're hearing, Rananda's expertise as
Yeah.
the writer, but then she's saying, well, this is how you make it useful so that you're found.
Yeah.
So your website gets found, so your blog posts get found, so that whatever it is that, and there's so many things that are search engines. One of the places that people don't think about as a search engine is Apple Podcasts. And 2 weeks ago, I did a podcast, and the content, I think it's one of my favorite podcasts, but it was very last minute. I hadn't thought about the headline, and so I just popped 5 words into the headline, and I looked at the stats the next week, and I thought, I really expected that episode to do so much better. And I said to my one of my team, I said, can you go back and change a headline? He said, yes. He said, look, whoever's downloaded that episode, it's going to have the old subject line, but yes, absolutely, you can. And I know that's what it was. I just didn't take the time on that. I wasn't even being clever. I was just, okay, this will do. And you're reminding me that it's not a matter of it'll do or not, because it's the hero, right? The subject line is the hero, whether that's the subject of your podcast, as it was in my case, whether it's the name of your virtual event, whether it's the blog post, whether it's the headline people see when they come to your website. All those things really matter. I really love that. Were you going to say something else on that? I wasn't sure if I cut you off.
No. I think also I think you've pretty much captured it there. I would say the overall, if it's interesting and useful for your audience, keep it in. But if it's not, cut it out. So the article is there for you to engage with someone, not just to be a kind of a work of art on the page itself, as much as it's tempting to do that from time to time.
Right. And of course, we're talking emails as well, whether it's your subject line for your weekly newsletter or your emails. You mentioned the tool, the co-schedule headline
analyzer. Yeah.
Analyzer. Is that a paid product, or is that a free product?
It can be, but I use it free.
You use the free version, and you can use the analyzer. Oh, great. Good to know.
It's amazing.
Very, very good. All righty. Wow, what gold. Love it. Oh, we've got a couple of comments here. Let's have a look. The headline tool, yes. So it's called the Co-Schedule Headline Analyzer. Fab interview. Okay, we're just seeing you as Facebook user, and that could be, that's okay. Just tell us who it is. I just want to call you out and thank you. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate it. So in a moment, we're going to hear how you can work with Rananda and talk about some of her products and services. But you mentioned you're a relatively new member to the HerBusiness Network. You've recently joined Goals Group, which are our accountability groups. What problem does being a member of our network seem to solve for your business right now? I know you're relatively new.
So mainly I have refocused on marketing, and it's certainly a big part of my accountability to my goals group. And it's ironic, it's such a plumber's tap thing. I think people expect more of a copywriter, but the reality of it is that it's far, far easier to work on other people's marketing and getting them out there. One is that there's that desire to help people and to help people succeed, because the products and services, especially offered within the HerBusiness group, are just amazing. You just want to make sure that everyone knows about them. And there's this kind of plumber's tap aspect of it where it's easy to put it off. And also, I think it's incredibly difficult to write about yourself or write for yourself, which is why I much prefer doing it for other people. And HerBusiness is just reminding me to bring it back, because the more I can get the word out there and the better I can get it out there, the more people I can also help myself.
Very, very good. And so having the focus and having a community that's feeding back to you where you're at in your business. Great. All right. Now, if people want to work with you, knowing that most of the people watching are going to be women small business owners, I'm going to pop up your website. And Tamira's here watching. Thank you, Tamira. This is the website for Rananda. Go ahead and tell us, what sort of products and services could you help women with right now?
So, look, a lot of people already do a lot of the work on their website. If they just want to hand it over, if they're just running out of time, if they just want someone who can pick up what their expertise is, I do a lot of content creation at the moment. I also, when people are writing really well and really fluently, it just helps to get an edit and a proofread. So I can do quite a detailed involvement or just light finessing. And what happens is, over time, you understand where your writing tics are. So you can lessen. It's not a permanent, ongoing, forever type of thing, but it can just help you finesse your writing going forward. And that kind of leads into the ghostwriting part of it, because in addition to ghostwriting books, I also ghostwrite for things like speeches and business presentations, and that's around being authentic to your voice. You don't want to, you might not have time to do it, but you also, when you stand up, you want to be yourself and come across as yourself, even if a large chunk of the content has been developed separately because you haven't had time to do it yourself.
I love it. If it looked like I went away, it was because when you said you ghostwrite for presentations, I'm like, yes, I find it so hard. Like, again, I give presentations every single month. I teach inside the community. But if someone invites me to speak for them on a stage, I suddenly lose my mind. And so having someone to help create those presentations, it sounds like a good idea. So this is where we find you, theinkrat.com. I do want to know how the name came about, because I think it's really cool.
So my initials of my married name are R-A-T. And so, and I was born in the year of the rat as well. So the rat component makes a lot of sense. But the ink, and then the ink,
of course, the
being
ink
a writer and all. So yeah, but thank you for asking that, because hardly anyone asks that. And I think I wonder after this year whether people have a bit of an aversion to rats, but actually we're highly industrious, hardworking creatures.
Very, very good. What would you like to leave us with? Thank you for this wonderful interview.
I would like to say to everyone out there to write without fear and to edit without mercy. But Ernest Hemingway actually had a better way of putting it, and he said, write drunk and edit sober.
Both of those work. Both of those work really well. Rananda, thank you so much for being my guest today. You can learn more about Rananda and take advantage of the wonderful support that she offers small business owners over at theinkrat.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I love these interviews. I love introducing you to our incredible members. They're so smart. They're so talented. They're so generous. Not only, by showing up here and sharing some of their best tips, but also I see them inside the community, really supporting each other. So if you want to surround yourself with a really warm, supportive community that has your back, that asks more of you than you do, then I encourage you to learn more about the HerBusiness Network. The doors are closed at the moment, so there's a couple of things you can do. One, you could join our free Facebook group over at herbusinessgroup.com. I don't have that URL, but it's herbusinessgroup.com. Or you can join the wait list for the next time we open the doors to membership. You can do that at herbusinessnetwork.com. Because like I said, we only open very rarely. We're mostly closed, but you can start to get support immediately inside the Her Business Facebook group where I hang out, and it's a wonderful community of women business owners. So just look up herbusinessgroup.com. That'll direct you to the Facebook group. Once again, thank you to Rananda Rich for being my guest here today. Have a great week. I'll see you back this time next week, I believe, with another member spotlight. Bye for now.